Okay, guess what I am.
Okay, go.
Meow.
Ooh. Oh, you're 3-0.
Nailed it. Happy Tuesday. We're having a turn Tuesday here at PHNX. Welcome into the PHNX Sun Devils show, coming to you live from Studio K, presented by Circle K. Join Inner Circle for free by downloading that Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com. I am Anthony Totri, joined as always by the backwards hat bandit. That is Erik Ruby. Oh, no. We've got NF. We've got NF back. Guys, we've got Captain Redbeard, also known as Kyle behind the Mac, making all of the magic happen. Do us a solid. Hit that like button. Do it. Do it right now. Hit the subscribe button. Drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. We got Short Bus in the chat. We got Sharon. We got Cade. We got Sun Devil fans everywhere hopping in to talk about the matchup that the Sun Devils have. First road game of the season against Texas State on Thursday. Erik, because of the short week, everything is getting sped up. That includes our full preview show of that matchup. We're going to dig into everything you're going to see. ASU's offense versus that Texas State defense. And on the flip side, Texas State's offense against that Sun Devil defense. We've also got an interview at the tail end of today's show, so definitely buckle up, stay locked in, go grab yourself a beverage, a snack, whatever you got to do to talk about Arizona State. Erik, how you feeling today before we get into all the matchup stuff,
I'm figuring things out. So forward hat is I'm NF.
It kind of depends. Like, this isn't really an NF outfit.
This is not an NF outfit.
This is like you drive a Mini Coupe and you stopped at a Circle K on your way to travel across the country.
This is not a Mini Coupe outfit. It's not.
It might be a Mini Coupe outfit.
No chance. No.
What do you think? What do you think, Captain Redbeard?
No, this is not a Mini Coupe outfit. This is not.
This is like a hike. Every weekend.
Yeah, I just went up to Flagstaff.
Trail mix.
I eat trail mix. Yeah, dude.
Mr. Trail Mix.
Dude, I
here.
love me some trail mix.
Oh,
quick fun fact:
what?
In college, I used to eat so much trail mix that if you eat enough peanuts. If you eat enough peanuts,
I'm very interested where this is going.
You can get kidney stones. It's a cause of kidney stones. And I had like 6 kidney stones at one time because I was eating a ridiculous amount of trail mix. So
you had
fun fact,
6 kidney stones?
I had 4 on my left side and 2 on my right side.
How do you get injured in dumber ways than me?
I don't know. First the kidney stones, then the recliner.
Yeah.
I also split my chin open when I was younger, and I jumped off a slide. So
off.
Yeah, off.
No, I can't talk. I can't talk anything about that. No, that 6 kidney stones is insane.
Yeah.
Very, very painful.
It was not the most fun I've ever had in my life, but look where we're at now.
It could have been a lot of fun.
I mean, yeah, look where we're at now.
You know what hopefully is going to be fun?
Thursday evening,
early evening, 4:30, ASU, Texas State. This game keeps on feeling bigger and bigger.
It does.
As we get closer.
It does. And again, we'll get into the matchups offensively, defensively. This is Texas State's biggest game of the season, right? This is the biggest name that they have on their schedule this year. Last year, it was Baylor. Texas State beat Baylor last season. And this is a team in Texas State that, again, through evaluation, through what I've seen on film through 2 weeks, talking to some folks out in Texas, this is a team that is gearing up to put on a show nationally. So Arizona State is going to have to come ready to rock because this is a Texas State team not to sleep on.
No, and this is a Texas State team that's good. And like you said, this is a Texas State team where this is their Super Bowl. This is their Super Bowl of the season. Let me read off some of the opponents going past week 3. Sam Houston after ASU. Troy against
They do
Texas
have
State
Troy
after
on that schedule.
Arkansas State, Old Dominion, Louisiana Monroe, Southern Miss, Georgia State, South Alabama. ASU is so levels ahead of every other opponent on there. But here's the thing: they're also level aheads of the two opponents that they've played before. Texas State dominated UTSA 49-10, and they only won by a touchdown in week 1 against Lamar, 34-27.
Yeah,
right. This is a Texas State team that, by all accounts, the eye test and then of course stats as well, is very good and has a couple players that you definitely need to watch out for. But it's no secret that this is an ASU team that, from my expectations, should win this game. Yeah. They are better, but usually when teams should and are better, that does not mean that it's a guaranteed win.
No, you see it all the time. All the time in sports, period, not just college football. Xavier in the chat, their opponents sound like the new Pac-12. Hey, maybe at a certain point, Joseph in the chat, it was the first one. Joseph, it was the first one. Now, apparently, I'm Trail Mix Totri.
Trail Mix Totri.
There you go. You want to hop into some of these matchups that we got?
Yeah, dude, let's do it.
So Arizona State's offense is where we're going to start, going up against that Texas State defense. I don't necessarily think this is where the game is going to be won. But for me, I want to get into Sam Leavitt, because Sam Leavitt is a guy obviously playing quarterback for the Sun Devils that we saw in week 1, had a decent game, did everything that they needed him to do to win that outing. Obviously, they were up by so much. We saw Jeff Sims late in the game. You didn't see a whole lot against Mississippi State. There was a lot on the table, still kind of left to be desired. We heard from Kenny post-game just in terms of it's hard for a quarterback to get into a rhythm when you run the ball 50-plus times as a unit. This, for me, is going to be the first real chance that we get to see Sam Leavitt in action. Gonna probably have to match an offense that is Texas State. Defensively, Texas State's kind of middle of the road for me in that Sun Belt Conference. Sam Leavitt, I think, is going to, again, have every opportunity to get Sun Devil fans really on his side, buy into what he does as a quarterback. We know he's a dual threat guy. In overall, the corners that Texas State has, they don't necessarily impress me with a lot of what they did. You look back even to last year, and it was the secondary that was a little bit of an issue for this team. And you look to last year's issues for Texas State's defense, it was getting off the field on third down. Same issue through 2 weeks for Texas State. Sam Leavitt has a real opportunity here.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see him step up, especially in that passing game. You saw him use his feet really well in week 2 and in week 1. I think that's going to be consistent with Sam throughout all the weeks, as you will see him be a ground threat for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'd like to see him air it out. You'd like to see some wide receivers get involved in more than just blocking. Jordyn Tyson, deep ball touchdown, Cade saying in the chat.
Lock
he's calling that. I'll take that. Would love to see that love spread around. Love, love, love. Keep on saying it. But Short Bus in the chat, one of our wonderful diehards, says we can win this game on the ground again. And
yeah.
And I do think that's true. And would you consider, I know that Kenny said it, and forgive me if you said it in your thing, that this is the best team that ASU has faced this year. You think that that's true?
I would agree offensively. I don't think defensively this is the best team that Texas State will see, but offensively.
Oh, no, I'm talking about ASU will see. This is so far.
As a whole team?
This is the best team, best unit, front and back, offense, defense that ASU's played out of their first 3 weeks.
I disagree. Okay. I think Mississippi State is a better team.
I agree.
But Texas State has very similar things offensively. That the same things that scared fans about what Mississippi State can do. They can score quickly. They've got guys. This is the same, again, sort of Texas State offense. And again, I know we're talking about ASU's offense, but for overall, I would say this is a really good team.
It's a good team, but I think Mississippi State's a better team.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think when you look at defensively, where you had to run the ball down Mississippi State's throat over and over and over and over again, I don't know if you're going to need 36 touches from Cam Skattebo, but I do believe that he's going to be your number one, right? And I think with that happening, you're not going to see just Sam Leavitt dealing and wheeling and all of that.
No.
But I do think that it will be a step up. He'll probably find himself somewhere in between week 1 and week 2 as far as everything. Now, even if he's going to be used a little bit less than he did in week 1 and more than week 2, I need to see him get that touchdown a little bit better. Not literal touchdowns, but just get that touch.
You're talking Skat?
I'm talking Sam.
Gotcha.
As far as the long balls go, even the mediums as well, making his reads. I think, again, this is a team that is worse than Mississippi State.
Yep.
And you're in a different position though, because it's on the road and it's a short week. So that kind of stuff evens out. And I feel like you're entering about the same type of game where you were against Mississippi State.
You're just on the road.
You're just on the road. Right. And so Sam, I'm really interested to see how he responds, because it wasn't the best passing game from him. If he just relies on his feet again, if he does actually air it out, and if he decides to do that, does it come with success, or does it come with, hey, we did this for a quarter and it's just not working? Let's go back to the safety blanket that is Cam Skattebo.
Yeah. I think, again, Sam Leavitt is going to have opportunities in this game, and I'm interested to see offensively how early they opt to allow Sam to kind of get into a rhythm. Again, I know Kenny talked just the other day about if an opposing team is not going to take away the strength of Arizona State, which is obviously running in between the tackles and running the football, then they're just going to continue to do that until you're forced to pretty much stack the box. And that's the luxury of having an offensive line that has played higher than people's expectations, and having a ground game filled with a stable of running backs that in theory can potentially return a guy like Raleek Brown, who we haven't seen this season as well.
That's exciting.
Like, there is a lot of opportunity in this game. Now, if Texas State does opt to load the box, which I would imagine you see, then that is where you're going to have to see Sam Leavitt really start to dish and go through his progressions and feed guys like a Jordan Tyson, who we're still waiting to see on a breakout game. We're still waiting to see a Jake Smith breakout game. So I think in reality, the opportunities are going to be there. But at the end of the day, it's Arizona State. It's Cam Skattebo's offense. Skat is he's going to get his touches. He's going to get his carries. And for Texas State, we talked about Lamar and UTSA, the first 2 games of the season that they played. And then you look at the rest of their schedule, not a whole lot there. This is going to be the toughest test that front 7 has faced. And it will be, mark my words, the toughest test that Texas State has seen from an individual player over the last 2 seasons.
Cam is one of the toughest tests any team's gonna face.
Yeah.
Again, you're talking about the AP National Player of the Week.
Yeah.
Right. That's no chump change.
No.
That's not a small deal, right? You're one of the best in the country at your position, point blank, period, if you win that award at any moment in the season. Or you're a fluke. And Cam's got to be in a fluke.
No.
So I'll tell you that. But with Texas State, as much as, yes, this is their Super Bowl and they're going to prepare for it, I think you're going to see Sam early get a couple opportunities. And if that doesn't work out, it's going to turn into Mississippi State Part 2. I think that there's going to be more love shown. That's why I don't think Skat's going to get those touches if it does turn into that. And no matter how much you prepare for it, no matter how much you're ready for it, this offensive line dominated against Mississippi State, and it dominated against Wyoming. I have no reason to believe that they will not at least get close to dominating against Texas State. And at that point, all you need is a 14-point lead, and then you're just draining clock and you're running the ball down their throat. And I fully expect that to be the case if Sam's not in rhythm, but you give him a chance, and if Sam comes out there in rhythm, then you just have the counters, right? It's all just a game of counters. Oh, Sam's on his feet well. You're expecting that. We're going to give it to Cam. Oh, you're loading the box right out of the bat, and you are just trying to take away our run, like the opposite of what Mississippi State did. We're just going to let Sam cook for a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that they're going to try to counter off of whatever Texas State aggressively does on defense to start.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of the benefit of having an offensive-minded coach in Kenny Dillingham, obviously working alongside offensive coordinator Marcus Arroyo, who in my estimation has done a really solid job putting together game plans and calling games through the first 2 weeks of the season. I am interested to see how often Arizona State runs the football, just in terms of, if it doesn't work, is this the type of game where you just run the football, so that when you do get to the fourth quarter, a team in Texas State that, yes, they've got their own talented guys on the defensive side of the ball, but the biggest difference between Arizona State and Texas State is the depth on both of these rosters. So you get to the fourth quarter, the front 7 of Texas State is already beat up and banged up because they've been absolutely just trying to find a way to tackle Cam Skattebo. And in the fourth quarter, you start to see those 2-3 yard carries turn into 5 to 7 yard carries, and then you eventually break one, like you saw on the back end of that Mississippi State game, right? That third quarter and really early on in the fourth, Arizona State was continuing to pound the rock and run the football. Now, it didn't necessarily produce what you would like. It didn't produce to what you saw in the first half of the game.
But until the fourth quarter.
Right. And then Arizona State was turning, again, those negative plays, those 1-2 yard runs into, a game-sealing drive at the end where it was a 5-minute keep away.
Massive chunk plays. Massive chunk plays from Cam specifically. that is the recipe for this team to win in moments where you talk about against Mississippi State. We talk about how it was the bend don't break and how they lost momentum, but they were still able to seal it because they had the lead. I mean, this is a team that in both games so far has gotten out to a massive lead. Now, of course, Wyoming, they kept that very dominant throughout. Mississippi State fought back. Got it real close.
Yeah, this is a team in Texas State. It's not going to go
much better than Wyoming. I think they're much better than Wyoming.
I agree.
I think they are closer to what Mississippi State is than what Wyoming is.
Agreed.
If we're looking at in between here, I would say Texas State's like 75% of the way up, 75, 80% of the way up on the way to Mississippi State from where Wyoming is, right? So if you're looking at that, and you're looking at how ASU handled the size and quite frankly wore down an SEC team in Mississippi State using the run, I think at the end of the day, if Sam comes out and has another game like he had in week 2 where it's just not all put together yet, I still am not going to freak out. But I do think it's really nice as a coach, as a team, to know that at the end of the day, there you go. There you go, Skat. There's the ball. Here's how about Kyson Brown? Oh, how about Raleek Brown? Oh, how about DeCarlos Brooks? I think it's just going to be... I think suffocating is a word I use to describe the defense on game day on Saturday. I think that this run game can be absolutely suffocating on offense.
Agreed. Kyle, can we put a poll in the chat? I'm curious what everybody in the chat thinks, just in terms of who is a tougher opponent, Mississippi State or Texas State. I want to see what the chat has to say about that. I know some people are talking about that. Sharon in the chat, how do our lines match up to their size-wise? Short Bus responding with, we are bigger. Arizona State's offensive line is bigger than Texas State's defensive line. However, Texas State does have a few defensive ends that are atop the Sun Belt Conference, just in terms of sacks. Now, you've got 3 defensive ends for Texas State that fall in the top 10 in the Sun Belt in sacks. Now, they all do have just 1.5. So nothing crazy. It's still really early in the season. They have Tunmise Adeleye. He's a Texas A&M transfer, was a really highly rated recruit coming out of high school. 6'4", 295. He is one of the bigger defensive ends that Texas State does have. Ben Bell also on that list, 6'2", 250. And then an interesting one for me, Khalil Alexander, 6'3", 205, a lot slimmer. Reminds me a lot of Clayton Smith, just in terms of size-wise. I don't think he has that same pedigree that a Clayton Smith does. Again, Clayton Smith, former 5-star edge rusher, commit to Oklahoma before transferring to Arizona State. So those are definitely names that you are going to want to keep in mind. And when you face a team that does have a handful of rotational edge rushers, you are going to want to wear them down. Wear them down that way. If it does turn into a shootout, this is a team that in Arizona State can have some time for their redshirt freshman quarterback. Again, a redshirt freshman quarterback who is just starting his 3rd career game at this level and his 1st career start on the road. So that is definitely something to keep in mind. If this is I would say my estimation is, yes, expect Arizona State's offense to live and die by the ground and pound here. But I would assume that Marcus Arroyo and Kenny Dillingham get Sam Leavitt acclimated and really in rhythm earlier than they did in previous games, just because, again, this is a Texas State offense that we'll talk about in a little bit, can high fly with some of the best of them on the West Coast or in Midland, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, Short Bus with a great point in chat says, Texas State's the same as Mississippi State, except Mississippi State challenged our size and physical abilities. Texas State's going to prove that this team can mentally do it on a short week. Yeah, again, this is a worse team than Mississippi State, but this is certainly worse circumstances that you're playing in. It's your first road game. It's your first short week. And you're coming off of a high 2-0, first win over an SEC program. Like, you can't get complacent. And I believe there was somebody in the chat who said that Texas State is going to be a college football or projected to be in the college football
projections,
playoffs. Yeah. Obviously, that doesn't mean that they're going to be on the same level as the SEC, the Big 10, and the Big 12 teams that are there. But that's still something.
Yeah,
that's still something, right?
Yeah.
And again, we're a better team, but not a perfect team, not an unbeatable team. No. And Texas State has many, many weapons.
There's no such thing as an unbeatable team.
But Texas State has a lot of weapons that could cause problems for ASU. But there's also a reality where they play Lamar and they play UTSA and they look great and everybody's kind of overreacting.
Absolutely.
And then they go and they play Arizona State and it's like, well, they're just not on the same level.
There are people that could say that about Arizona State, and people do say that about Arizona State, right? You beat up on a Wyoming team that looks way worse than they have over the last half decade, and then you beat up on a team in the SEC, yes, but a team in Mississippi State that isn't really even in the middle of that pack.
You were favored by about a touchdown against Mississippi State and against Wyoming.
And now
you were supposed to win those games.
Now you're hovering again between a 1.5 point dog, 1.5 point favorite. Like it's continuing to go back and forth. For me, again, this is a game that's going to be won by ASU's defense, which we'll get into here in just a second. But big thing to keep your eye on, and what, in my opinion, is going to give ASU the advantage here is this is a team in Arizona State that still remains fairly healthy through 2 weeks of the season. Obviously, going into the year, you know that you're not going to have Prince Dorba, you're not going to have Sean Na, a couple other pieces. Mason Williams obviously retires from the game. So that definitely hurts the secondary. But overall, I think this is a team in Arizona State that has just way more depth in all three levels, both offensively and defensively. So when you do get to the fourth quarter, and if we're exchanging blows, this is a team in Arizona State that has rotational pieces that you can put into the game that are going to make a difference, whereas Texas State, I just don't know if they have the depth to keep up.
No, the only room I'm a little worried about health and injury-wise is the defensive line. Saw a couple bodies go down, plus you're missing Jeff Clark. But so many people have stepped up in that room as well. Shout out to, I know, Sweet Prince Kenny, another diehard in the chat here. I got to shout out Elijah O'Neal. He's been on the Elijah O'Neal train
for a while now.
For quite some time. He's sticking his flag in that one. They have the bodies for sure. I mean, this whole team has a lot more depth than last year. And you're right, a couple injuries here or there does not devastate this team like it would have last year, right? And you are operating where you haven't lost a massive skill position player. In fact, you're adding one in Raleek Brown, presumably for this week. So you look at everything on paper. And this is not me trying to be super confident and cocky, because there's still definitely a reality where Texas State can win this game.
I don't think they do.
I don't want to say not worried, but I am rather confident that ASU has the coaching, the talent, and the players to go and win this game.
Yeah.
The only outside factors that we cannot account for, because we simply have not seen this team react and to respond to it, is the road factor and is the short week factor. But you can look at how they're coached and how they respond against Mississippi State, where they did bend but didn't break. So all of those things kind of come into play here, and you can have great defensive ends in the Sun Belt for sure.
Yeah.
Those are defensive ends that are given to every team in the SEC.
Yeah.
And I'm not even trying to be rude. That's just the way that things are, right? Like, there are players on Mississippi State that would be the best player on Texas State.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Kevin Coleman's one of them.
Kevin Coleman would by far and away be the best player on Texas State, right? And you mentioned just a lot of the size as well. Like, ASU's offensive line has just been absolutely dominant. Just really, really good at protecting. And then also when you pair that with great wide receivers that are good blockers, and even your running backs are good blockers as well when Sam can move his legs. I mean, you have the tools to grind this game out if necessary. It does not need to be a 50-49 Abilene Christian Texas Tech shootout, okay?
But it doesn't mean it's not going to be.
No, it doesn't mean it's not going to be, but I'm saying you have the tools to grind this out and to win 17-7.
You
absolutely have the tools to do that.
And that's one thing about this Arizona State offense, right? Is you bring up the offensive line and how well of a job they've done protecting Sam Leavitt. Now, part of the reason that they're able to do that is because you look at where Arizona State has been when they throw the football. Usually they're on the plus side in terms of territory, right? So you're pushing the other side of the field, and you've set yourself up for a third and manageable. We're talking anything between 3rd and 1 to 3rd and 5 because you've dominated 1st and 2nd down. Now, if you face a team in Texas State, which you're going to, likely loading the box, that is going to put a lot of pressure on those early downs to run the football effectively. Otherwise, you're going to be looking at 3rd and 10. And when you get to a 3rd and 10, now we're talking about, okay, this is a pass rush for Texas State that they can pin their ears back and go. It's not a 3rd and 5 where, hey, you still got to play the run because Cam Skattebo's back there.
Yeah, I also think that one of the things with Mississippi State is, sure, they had the size advantage, but as far as scheme goes, they were not trying to stop the run nearly to the level that I believe Texas State will.
No, Mississippi State was
almost disrespectful.
Not even almost. It was very disrespectful.
Yeah. And we have results from our poll in the chat. It's a very close one. Tougher test, Texas State or Mississippi State. Texas State with 52%, Mississippi State with 48%. I do assume that does not fully go off of talent on that answer. I think that goes with circumstances as well, because you're going from a home game on a Saturday night to a short week road game in San Marcos, Texas. And like I said yesterday, you don't want your back against the wall in San Marcos, Texas.
No, you absolutely don't. And again, we've already talked a little bit about it. This is not where the game is going to be won. ASU's offense is going to do what they do. And I think they are, quite frankly, going to be able to have their way with that Texas State defense. But it's really the flip side where this game is going to be won. So we will definitely get to that matchup here in a second.
And we'll do that in a second. But first, I have to tell you about our friends over at Chicken and Pickle, baby. Come sign up for our Cardinals tailgates at Chicken and Pickle. I will be out there on Sunday. It starts at 10 o'clock, goes until the game starts at 1. Have some great food, play some pickleball, play some life-size games, have some drinks, watch some football.
Chicken and waffles on the menu?
Dude. If you don't think that I'm getting chicken and waffles when I'm going at 10 a.m. on Sunday, I'm getting me some chicken and waffles. Hopefully, we'll be riding high off an ASU victory going into the weekend. And listen, if you can't make it out to our tailgates, Chicken and Pickle is still the place to go. Whether it's a date night, whether it's a night out with family or friends, or whether you just want to get a little run in, play a little pickleball.
Just vibe.
Right? Just vibe. 2-story bar, fantastic food, more than just the chicken. The ribs there is fantastic. Had the pulled pork there, also fantastic. The pickles are good, even though I'm not a pickle guy. I am a pickleball guy, though. That shit is very, 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 very fun. Head to chickenandpickle.com, see all the fun you can have at their Glendale location.
Now, look, love Chicken and Pickle.
Mm-hmm.
It's in Glendale. It's a little bit of a drive from me, and I know from others. So if you want to go have some fun, make sure that your car is full of gas. Thanks to our friends over at Circle K. Maybe stop, get yourself a little sports drink, a little snack, and definitely take advantage of the offers that they have on Inner Circle. It is their free membership program. Super easy to download. Just enter your email and phone number to be fully enrolled, and literally after that, all you need is your phone number to get some of those deals. And some of the deals we're talking about is saving 25 cents per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. And then guess what? Every single day after that, you can save 3 cents per gallon as well. There's plenty of other member-exclusive deals and discounts. Your first 5 Polar Pops free as well. Enjoy your member-exclusive beverage deal. Inner Circle members like you can get any size Polar Pop or Froster for just 79 cents. Join Inner Circle for free by downloading that Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. Love everybody that we have in the chat riding high. Again, we're talking Arizona State, Texas State. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. Obviously, tomorrow we're going to get into our predictions and some more fun stuff.
75-0
this matchup. But this is where I want to talk about where this game is going to be won and lost. And that's with the ASU defense going against the Texas State offense. And some people are going to be thinking, oh, well, hey, right now Arizona State's defense is one of the best, if not the best, in the Big 12. Nobody in the country in the Power 4 level has as many defensive touchdowns as your Arizona State Sun Devils. So first and foremost, enjoy that. That's a tough thing to do, okay? To have multiple defensive linemen have scoop and scores already through 2 weeks, to have a pick 6 from a transfer linebacker. Arizona State's defense is as good as any in the Big 12, if not the best. I say that knowing that Texas State's offense is averaging nearly 47.5 points per game. Now, you can say that's a Lamar, you could say that's UTSA, and that's good and well. It's not easy to score that many points consistently. And again, one thing I will say is that UTSA, yes, it's not a national powerhouse. They've had their fair share of good seasons over the last few years, and that's a rivalry game between those two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a game that for Texas State and for UTSA it means a lot.
Yeah,
and as we all know here, that when you beat your rival by a lot, it means something. It could even be put on a billboard, right? So
if you know, you know.
The thing with Texas State and their offense is two things can be true at the same time, right? It's true that they put those numbers up against teams that are massively inferior to Arizona State University purely on a talent recruiting investment level, right? That's true.
That is true.
You can say UTSA, Texas State is a rivalry game, but UTSA will not be anywhere near the challenge that Arizona State was. Same thing with Lamar, right? That in itself is true.
Yes.
And then on the other hand, you have McCloud. And you have a lot of weapons around him. And while a lot of them aren't really that big, literally, in size, they still put up numbers.
They do.
Right?
They absolutely do.
And we mentioned this a couple times during this week, but This ASU defense, if I can point at one thing that they've struggled with, whether it's physicality and size or speed, it's been speed. Mm-hmm. That one run from a reception from Kevin Coleman for 80 yards and the touchdown that really helped spark Mississippi State to get back in that game was because he broke one tackle from Ghost, and then he ghosted him.
Yeah.
He was gone, and nobody could catch him because he was an absolute speed freak. And there's no Kevin Coleman on this team, but there are some guys that can run, and they can make a play.
And we'll get into those skill guys here in a second, but really this offense goes as Jordan McCloud goes. Jordan McCloud obviously is the reigning Sun Belt player of the year. He was the James Madison quarterback last season. James Madison, I believe they spent most of their season in the AP Top 25. They were a really, really good football team. Jordan McCloud, to Kenny Dillingham's point the other day, he's got a quick release. He gets the ball out quick, and that helps, right? He's a senior quarterback. He's been around college football for some time. He's seen a lot of defenses. He's played a lot of football, and that is something that if you are not careful, Jordan McCloud will find a way to pick you apart. Now, this is a team that doesn't just rely on Jordan McCloud. They've got a running back in Ismail Mahdi. He's currently second in the Sun Belt in rush yards. He was an absolute beast in 2023, if I'm not mistaken. He led the nation, not just the Sun Belt, led the nation in all-purpose yards, rushing, receiving, kickoff returns as well. This is a guy that does it all. It was massive. A lot of people thought that he was going to enter the transfer portal because of the year that he had in 2023. He opted to return, run it back, and he's going to be a problem, not just for Arizona State. He's going to be a problem for everybody that Texas State faces this season. Oftentimes, the same way that we talk about Arizona State offensively, right? You can choose. You have to pick your poison. Are you going to load the box and stop Cam Skattebo and let Sam Leavitt try and beat you? Or are you going to play with your front and see where this team can run the football? This is a team in Texas State offensively where just as dangerous as Arizona State's offense, you're going to have to pick your poison and hope that the other holds up. I'm not sure where Arizona State's going to go. I don't know if they want to see if Jordan McCloud's going to beat him. I don't know if they want to test Ismail Mahdi. This is a kid that, again, in Ismail scares me more than Jordan McCloud. He can run the football really, really well. He's got a phenomenal ability to break tackles. And he's a problem. He wears you down the same way Cam Skattebo does. It's tough to bring down, a little bit of a smaller back. So same thing we talked about yesterday with Cam Skattebo and leverage and what that does for him, does a lot of the same for Ismail. And again, this is a Texas State offensive line led by left tackle Nash Jones. He was a starter at points last season for Texas State. He returned. He's starting still along the offensive line. This is a team in Texas State offensively. Again, I know they haven't played quote-unquote anybody. They've got the pieces to put together a really, really good team. But again, this is where the game is going to be won and lost, is Arizona State's defense. Are they as good as we think they are? I think so. I am really, really curious to see the approach on McCloud in Ismail. It's going to be very fascinating to see early on in that game on Thursday.
Two of the better skill position players that you've seen this season.
I would say, and again, I'm not totally familiar with everybody in the Sun Belt. These two are the cream of the crop in the Sun Belt Conference.
Right. Yeah, I would say if I had to choose Blake Shapen or Jordan McCloud, that'd be my quarterback. I would take McCloud.
Yeah,
for sure. And I don't think there's a running back on Mississippi State.
Not on Mississippi State. Wyoming, if they were healthy.
If they were healthy,
they were healthy, but you're still.
But they weren't.
You're still talking about Ismail being one of the best backs in the nation.
Sure.
Period.
Yeah, and it is kind of like a pick your poison type of deal. You're not going to be able to take away everything.
No.
You're just not. But if ASU's defense does go out and completely dominates and completely shuts it down and limits Texas State to anywhere under 20, 21 points, they are who we thought they were. Yeah. Right. And I don't think that is something that is so far fetched that I couldn't even imagine it. I think there's a reality here, and I'm not saying this is exactly what's going to happen or that this is what fans should expect, but there is a reality where if this defense plays on an absolute another level that they can reach, they can limit this team to less than half of what they're averaging as far as points go.
Oh yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility for me. Again, this is going to be a real test for Brian Ward's defense. And it's cliche, right? But the front seven is going to have to play their best football that they've played through 3 weeks of the season. Because if you don't, Jordan McCloud, his release, the way he goes through the offense, he's familiar with it. And you've seen it through 2 weeks. If you give him enough time, he's going to pick you apart. He's dynamic. He can move. He has lightened up on that a little bit, but that doesn't mean that he won't take off if he needs to. The front seven is going to need to get pressure on Jordan McCloud every single play, because if you don't, he's going to pick you apart the same way that he did a couple of those other defenses. And this is a Brian Ward defense that we talk about through spring, through fall camp, that they love pressure. They love sending guys. They also love simulated pressure, right? Showing you one look and then dropping into a creative zone, something that some quarterbacks, younger quarterbacks, typically struggle with in disguised coverages. But Clayton Smith, CJ Fight, Elijah O'Neal, all these guys are going to need to play a massive role in really both the run game and the passing game. You are going to have to, in the same approach that Texas State's defense is going to take, where we're going to try and bottle you up on first and second down, and we're going to make you sit there on 3rd and 10 and try and find one of your speedsters at wideout while we send our edge rushers all out on you.
I think as long as ASU makes them uncomfortable, they can win this game. I don't think you need to smother them and allow 0 points, right?
I think you need to smother them.
Your offense is good enough to keep up. I think you need to make them uncomfortable. You need to make them not able to have any big plays. Like, again, one of the big things that bit you in the butt against Mississippi State was that 80-yard touchdown reception, right? Like, it was those big chunk plays, right? It gives them life, especially when you're on the road and you're taking on a team where this will probably be the biggest fan turnout for Texas State this week. This is going to be the biggest turnout from students. This is going to be the biggest game that these players are going to bed thinking about, and they've been thinking about it. I know you don't look ahead in the season, but I'm sure that they have looked at this game over Lamar and UTSA, right? You can't let them get out there and get any sort of momentum. Right?
No.
And that to me is more on the defense than it is the offense. Right?
I agree. I agree with you 100%. I said it after week 1. And I happen to be correct, right? I said if Arizona State wins the kickoff with the turnout that Kenny wanted, he is going to want to defer, and he is going to want to put Brian Ward's defense on the field, Mississippi State, with their backs to the ASU student section. It's exactly what happened. In Arizona State's defense had the opportunity, feeding off the student section as good as it was at that time, to really start this game fast. I'm interested to see the approach if Arizona State wins the kickoff again. I almost feel like Arizona State is going to want to receive if they win the kickoff, similar to when Mississippi State was in town, right? Student sections popping, you're having a ton of people, the crowds, it's the start of the game. Everybody's going crazy. I think they're going to want to limit that, because if Texas State goes out on offense and fires off immediately, it's going to be difficult to quiet that crowd early in the game. Arizona State goes on offense, puts together a 6, 7, 8 minute drive, can take the wind out of Texas State's sails defensively, get Sam Leavitt going just a little bit. I think that fits more what Arizona State is going to want to do from a game plan perspective this game versus last game. But it just goes to show how important literally receiving and deferring is at the start of a game.
I'm sure they thought about that. I'm sure they've tried to figure it out. And I mean, the momentum side of it as well, the one thing that you cannot do is let Texas State get out early to a lead.
No, you don't want to play. The last thing Arizona State wants is to play a shootout.
Because if you're playing from behind, and let's say you're playing catch up the whole game and you're down 7 points and now you're nearing the end, maybe running the ball has been working for you, but now you simply don't have the time. Now you have to change the way that you play in order to catch up. Instead of having the other team shift how they're playing, will you continue to just do the same thing, run the ball down their throat, and waste time and time and time.
Yeah.
So that first possession, even if you do receive, even if you do go out on offense, if they force you to a 3 and out, that's going to be the same type of momentum. Or if they force a turnover, same type of momentum as if Texas State got the ball and goes down the field and scores.
Yeah.
Right. So when you go off the bat, it is so important. If you are receiving, man, put at least 3 on the board. At least 3. Right. And I know our kicking situation's a little iffy. Great game.
Great
game against Mississippi State. A really deep kick as well, but kicking at home is different than kicking on the road.
Yeah.
So put some points up on the board, and that is the recipe to being calm and being able to ease into what you want to do on both offense and defense, rather than Texas State comes out, snatches some momentum, whether it's through a stop or through a score. This team is playing in a way that they've never had to play before. As far as this season goes, they've always been ahead. They've always had the momentum off the bat. And it changed when Mississippi State stole some of that, but that was in the third quarter.
Yeah.
If Texas State comes out and steals that right off the bat, this team is playing a different style and a different brand of football than they've had to play so far.
No, that's right. And Kenny said it just the other day. You're going to face a team at a certain point, whether that be this week or when you get to conference play, that you're not going to just be able to knock them out in the first round, right? This isn't a Wyoming. This isn't a team like Mississippi State where you can beat up on them for 3 quarters and then just be up enough and hang on to the ball for the last 6 minutes and win the football game. Mm-hmm. Texas State offense moves. They move the ball. I don't care that it's a Sun Belt team. I don't care that it's not a team in the Power Four. I don't care. This is a team that can move up and down the field at will. And if you give them an inch, they will absolutely take a mile, whether that be running the football, airing it out. It does not matter to me. And again, earlier you brought up some of the wide receivers that this team has. Not necessarily the biggest guys, but Chris Don Jr., Joey Holbert, Jaden Williams, Cole Wilson. They're all speedsters, right? All of these guys can make you miss, and they can take the top off of a defense. I know there was somebody in the chat earlier, Will, saying he's more concerned about the secondary than the front six this week. If coverage is good, the sacks will come. The front six has been consistent so far against the pass and run. It also goes to the other side, right? If coverage is good, it leads to sacks. But guess what? If you're able to rush the passer quickly, get him moving, it's easier to defend, right? It's easier to sit in coverage for a few seconds when you have a quarterback moving, right? And just absolutely wrecking havoc in the backfield. So for me, I know there's people like Will in the chat that are maybe a little concerned with the secondary. I don't really have any concerns with the secondary as it stands right now. Again, Keith Abney is one of the best players on this defense, one of the smartest players on the team. And Javen Robinson is proved to be just as good opposite him in coverage. So assuming those guys are, still healthy throughout the entirety of the football game, I've got no issue there. But I am a little concerned just in terms of early and often, how do you approach this Texas State defense or this Texas State offense? I know Brian Ward's going to have his scheme. He's going to have his game plan going. I'm just more so interested to see really how they stop Ismail, because Ismail is, like we said, the best back that Arizona State has seen thus far this season. And I don't say best back in respect to Wyoming and Mississippi State. I say it is Ismail is a back that could be in the Big 12, which the best conference for running backs right now, could be a monster in that conference. So
we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see. I'm excited. Man, I'm happy this is a short week. Give me football sooner. I am too. But then it's a long break.
Yeah.
Then we have a long break.
Then we got 9 days.
Yeah,
9 days.
Look,
we have talked, obviously, a lot about this matchup today, the other day. We're going to talk more about it tomorrow. But we're going to hear from somebody who covers Texas State. We've got an interview for you guys. We're going to play it here in a second, but we are going to take just a short break to tell you a little bit about our friends over at Game Time. So Game Time, they've got a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I'm going to continue telling you guys about Game Time. Can you do me a favor, Erik? Can you tell me how much tickets for the Arizona State-Texas State game are? Because I know there is a wide fan base of Sun Devil fans who currently live in Texas. So if you're looking to go out to the game, Game Time is going to have you covered. I know I've already used Game Time several times this year just for concert tickets. Erik, he had brought it up just the other day. He got his wife tickets to a concert as well. So
$19.
$19 for that game?
Yeah, that's the cheapest one. That's standing room. $19? But you can also get in for $28.
I mean, that's dirt cheap.
Okay, wait. Maybe that was Texas State.
That was
sorry. That was Texas State. No,
yeah, this is Texas.
Oh, they
State.
said Texas Tech.
No.
Sorry.
It's Texas.
Yeah, Texas State. Yeah, $19.
We're not looking past them.
Texas Tech is $25.
Yeah,
if you're looking.
I mean, that's incredibly cheap. So use Game Time, download it. Super easy to create an account. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. You can get it for free. You can literally
get into Texas State for free because you get your $20 back off your $19 standing room only. And you can make all the Texas State fans uncomfortable.
Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time.
Captain Redbeard?
Game time.
I love it.
I'm going to make this super simple, super easy. If you're looking to get new flooring, you need to do it through Empire today. Not only are they fast, easy, convenient, but they do it at the highest quality. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you they're going to give you the lowest prices, because if I did that, that means their flooring would be trash. And it's not trash. It's good quality flooring they would put in their own homes. And the number one thing that you want to do when you make the decision to put in new flooring is to make the right one. And they help you do that with their virtual floor visualizer. You can see exactly how your flooring is going to look in wherever you are putting it, whatever you want to match it to, cabinets, paint on the wall. Maybe you look at it and say, I love that floor. I need different paint to match it. You don't want to make that investment and it's wrong. We have Empire flooring all throughout our offices here. It has been holding up real nicely. We move around our studios quite often. It never ever fades. It is beautiful. It is perfect. They have great customer service, and you can schedule your free in-home estimate today. All listeners will receive a $350 off discount when they use promo code PHNX. Some restrictions do apply, but see empiretoday.com/PHNX for details.
Desert Stro in the chat. How many points should I give my TSU buddy for a friendly wager? I'd give him 6.5. I think
you're gonna give Texas State 6.5. The line's 1.5.
Yeah, I think Arizona State wins by at least a touchdown.
You better be getting something. I mean, I don't disagree with you, but
I don't think you. I'm pretty confident. I'm pretty confident. You want to give them 6.5? I think ASU, if they're going to win this football game, they win by 7+.
You want to go to San Marcos? $36 tickets, basically.
How long is that drive?
Let's find out.
I don't know if I want to drive all the way out there when we can be watching the game from here, but that is just my 2 cents. Look, again, Erik and I cover Arizona State every single day, and we do it for months on end. We're doing the PHNX Sun Devils show 5 days a week. However, it is sometimes a little bit of a challenge to really dig into the weeds of what the opposition is, what they have, what's been going on throughout their season and camp. And that is why this morning had the luxury of talking to KVU's own Cory Mose, covers Texas State, and was really able to give me a little bit of the inside scoop just on what Texas State has looked like through the first 2 weeks of the season. So enough of us blabbing about the matchup. This is what Cory Mose thinks about Thursday's game between Arizona State and Texas State. We're joined now by Cory Mose, KVU's own. Cory, thank you for taking the time today, man.
Oh man, blessed to be here, man. I was just talking to you about this behind the scenes, but yeah, the layout is dope, bro. I mean, I like the graphic. You know, you got a nice little black background behind you. Of course, you got to get the water from Starbucks.
Oh yeah,
it's a whole vibe out here.
It's crazy what happens when you're 2-0. We actually get some stuff around here, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, hey, and the helmets.
Oh yeah,
man, mess with them.
Absolutely. Love it. Look, obviously we got you on Arizona State hitting the road for the first time here in the 2024 college football season. And they got Texas State. Kenny Dillingham at his press conference this week said Texas State's the best football team that they'll play up to this point in the season. Said this is a team that could definitely be a Power 4 team and definitely give some of those Big 12 teams a run for their money. Just before we get into personnel and you know everything that we've seen up to this point about Texas State, do you agree with that? You think Texas State, from what you've seen for the first 2 weeks, could be a Power 4 team?
Oh yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, this is something that has been burning and building for the past 2 years, right? Right when GJ Kinney got here, you could tell there was a different energy here. I was speaking back to last year in week 2 when they played Baylor. They went over to Waco, beat them in their own house. And so that was kind of like the first time people looked around. It's like, wow, Texas State may be something brewing out there in San Marcos. And so you fast forward a year later, a year under GJ Kinney's system, you get a big-time recruit like Jordan McCloud, the reigning Sun Belt Player of the Year. And so you bring in all these factors and you're like, wow, if you look around, they got a little thing going, you know? And so I think that's for sure the energy out here in San Marcos is that Texas State is legit. As long as they stay healthy, right?
Yeah, that's always the story in college football, right? It's you got depth and you got to stay healthy at a certain point. For GJ Kinney, for ASU fans that aren't too familiar with the type of coach that he is, how would you kind of evaluate what he's done to this program in such a short period of time?
Yeah, he's definitely a player's coach. And so you see that in his interviews when he talks to the players, like he's a player guy. And he used to be a player himself, quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles back in the day. You know, just to bring you an example, right? When the NCAA game dropped, he talked to us about how he used to he showed some of his players his old rating in the old NCAAs. And he was like a 95, like he was up there, like a 95, 94. Yeah, he was like that. He was like that. And so he was like, y'all talking all that mess, but back in the day, I used to be the guy in the game, And so that's the type of stuff, though, that he does with his players to kind of have them buy in, to show his personality. And he's just a guy that wants to win, and he's going to do anything to make that happen. And I think guys and the recruits that you see that are coming in are seeing that, man. He's a genuine dude that has a high-powered offense, and, wide receivers and quarterbacks love to see that they're going to get their stuff off, because he's throwing the ball 30, 40 times a game. And so, yeah, I think that's something that GJ Kinney is building here, is that energy that they believe that they're great because he believes that he's great as a head coach.
Definitely. You talk about the high-powered offense that Kinney likes to run. You mentioned Jordan McCloud, obviously quarterback. He's played college football for some time now, I believe going back to 2019. Just what have you seen from McCloud through the first 2 weeks of the season in terms of what he is right now and how good of a quarterback he can be on Thursday against Arizona State?
Yeah, I think week one, right, when they played Lamar, it was a close game. It was something that no one really expected. You can say that after the game, they were kind of disappointed in their efforts, on both sides of the ball, defense and offense. And I think what McCloud was the command of that offense, right? I think week one, you kind of saw that he was still kind of learning some things. Of course, being patient with his legs, I feel like, compared to week two, where he had a couple rushing touchdowns. He was able to get out the pocket, had some design runs for McCloud in the red zone. And I think that's the difference that you're going to continue to see in the evolution of his offense with McCloud, is that he can run. And so GJ loves to throw it, but he's also learning how to utilize his quarterback a little bit more in all facets of what he can bring to the table. And so I think that's what you're going to see when Arizona State comes to town, is that, man, this dude knows the offense. He has special arm talent. That's why he's a reigning Sun Belt Player of the Year. But when they need him to use his legs, they're going to do it. And he's a weapon in that way.
It's an offense in Texas State that has averaged through 2 weeks about 47.5 points per game. Obviously, a lot of that is the system that Kenny's got there and then Jordan McCloud. But who are some of the other weapons that Arizona State fans should definitely know heading into Thursday night's matchup?
If you look at that running back room, I mean, you got a dude in Ismail Mahdi who last year, no one really talks about this, but I think it's a crazy stat, but he led the nation, like not just the conference, but the nation in all-purpose yards.
Oh, wow.
Because he's also a kick returner. And so he catches the ball out the backfield, and it was a big reason why he stayed here. That was a big announcement, I should say, because a lot of people were expecting him to transfer to a Power 5 because of all he did last year. But that shows you, right, the culture that GJ Kinney's building, that a guy who led the nation in all-purpose yards decided to stay at Texas State. And so that's a guy to look out for. But the other guy in that running back room is Lincoln Perry. He had a really good game last week against UTSA. And he's a guy that's coming off a season-ending injury last year. And so a lot of people don't really remember what he was like his sophomore year because it's been 2 years, right? But last week, he came back on the scene with a force. And so that running back duo is going to be something to look out for when it comes to, can you stop the running game along with Jordan McCloud's legs as well. And I just got to mention one more guy on the outside at wide receiver, Joey Hobart. He's a dog. I don't have much else to say about him, but he's a dog. Number 10, you got to know where number 10 is at all times when he's on the field.
This is an offense in Texas State, and I know there's a lot of people that have talked about it up to this point, haven't really played, quote-unquote, anybody, right? You talk about Lamar, UTSA. Now, don't get me wrong, UTSA, they've had their moments throughout the last couple of seasons, but how is it evaluating this offense going up against defenses like that versus this week? Now you're bringing in a Big 12 defense in Arizona State that's in the upper echelon as it stands through 2 weeks. They handed it to a Mississippi State team that scores at a high rate last week, and then in week one, just an absolute dominating performance over Wyoming. You mentioned that close game against Lamar early on. What did you see defensively that they did that could give Texas State maybe some fits?
I would say probably the first thing is they were able to get to Jordan McCloud a little bit. I think their pass rush was able to get there. And that was a question when coming to the season. They had 3 offensive linemen still battling, I should say, for the starting position. And so that shows you, right? There isn't really a consistency on that front 5. They're starting to get to that point as they start to make decisions of who the exact starter is. But against Lamar, I mean, that was the problem. Jordan McCloud was under pressure a good amount of time, and so much so they switched quarterbacks and went to the backup RJ Martinez, who's been playing well in camp, and so they want to get him some time. But again, can they have enough time in the pocket? And that's what I'm looking out for against Arizona State. When you got some real dogs in that front four for the Sun Devils, and they can get to the quarterback. I know y'all can, and so that's the kind of thing to look out for on Thursday, I should say, right under the lights. Is can they get pressure to Jordan McCloud, because other teams of the past have been able to.
Yeah, absolutely. Is this a team that you've seen in Texas State that starts fast, or is this a team that takes a little bit to get into their groove? Because, again, going back to Arizona State's defense, there isn't a Power 4 defense that scored more defensive touchdowns through 2 weeks. They start fast. Second play of the season, they had a pick six running the other way. So what have you seen from Texas State in that respect?
Yeah, that's the goal, right? GJ Kinney's offense is, hey, we got to get out to a lead, and then our defense is going to provide pressure because they're really good at rushing the quarterback themselves. I mean, Texas State, they have 3 guys leading the sack numbers in the Sun Belt Conference. And so 3 guys in the top 10, I should say, that are in the sack numbers for the conference. And so they get after it because they're able to get these leads so fast. And so that's always the goal with any type of GJ Kinney offense is start out fast because, one, the offense is fast, right? You want to be able to get a couple big hitters, and you don't want 3 and outs because their possessions are 20 seconds long at that point because they move the ball so fast. And so, that is always the goal when it comes to Texas State offense is get out fast, force the other team to play from behind, make them pass the ball, rush the quarterback. That's a recipe for success for the Bobcats.
Obviously, a lot of talk about that Texas State offense, and rightfully so. Again, a team that's averaging about 47.5 points per game is wild. I don't care what conference you're playing in. This is college football. On the other side of the ball, though, you bring up some of those pass rushers. Who are some names to know for Arizona State fans heading into that matchup?
Yeah, it's actually a local Austin kid. His name's Ben Bell. He plays defensive end. I think he has about 1.5 sacks so far this season out of Cedar Park High School. And, man, if you look at him, right, he looks like a Power 5 guy. And so they have a couple of those sprinkled within that defense. Another guy I would say, not on the defensive line to look out for, but in the secondary, Joshua Eaton. He's a transfer from Oklahoma. He's been in Texas State for a couple years now. And so another D1 talent, right? That's now coming into his own. He's becoming a leader on that defensive side. I know after the game this past week against UTSA, we asked him about how, against Lamar, y'all gave up 27 points, but against UTSA, you only gave up 10. Like, what was the difference? And he kind of straight up said, like, we had to take things seriously. And we had to take a look in the mirror and be like, that's not who we were in week 1. Week 2 is who we actually want to be every single week. And so they take pride defensively in stopping teams now and not just letting the offense put up 50 points and make it a shootout. They want to be able to hold up their side of the bargain too. And so that secondary and Josh Eden married with the pass rush from a Ben Bell, it's been a recipe that's been cooking up some good things. And I think that's what they're going to try to continue to do on Thursday against Arizona State.
This is a team in Arizona State that nationally, really over the last few days, people have started to take notice. Of course, number 4, Cam Skattebo. We got him behind us, obviously. National AP Player of the Week, Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week, nearly eclipsed 300 all-purpose yards last week, rushed for over 260. How do you anticipate that matchup going between the Arizona State offensive line and Skat versus that Texas State front 7?
I think that's the key to Texas State's ability to stop Arizona State's offense, right? Can you stop the run? And that's a question that hasn't really gotten tested yet when it comes to this Bobcat defense, because like you mentioned, I mean, the last 2 contests, they've been mediocre opponents, I would say. UTSA, it is a rivalry game. I will say that, though. They haven't beaten UTSA for the past 5 or 6 years. And so that was a big time win for them. But even against Lamar, right? You're supposed to be Lamar. You're 30-point favorites, and you only won by 7. And so, yeah, that run defense hasn't really been tested to this level. And so I think that's kind of the question that I don't have answers for, because we haven't really seen them be tested in that way. And so this is going to be the first matchup where we'll get to see if that Texas State defense can, like, bunker down, right, and put hats on the ball and rally tackle, because that's what we're going to need to do against Arizona State.
I feel like there's always a little bit of concern when you have an offensive-minded coach, and Arizona State has a similar approach with Kenny Dillingham, obviously former offensive coordinator, Oregon, Florida State, et cetera, where you've got such an offensive-minded coach that maybe the defense takes a little bit of a hit because you're going to have to bring in somebody that just absolutely knows what they're doing on the defensive side of the ball. Have you seen that at all through the first couple games, through fall camp at all, that maybe the defense is just a few bars below what Texas State has offensively?
I think that's kind of tough to gauge just because of GJ Kinney's offense is so fast, right? So now you're talking about if you do get a 3 and out, it was just 20 seconds off the board, and now your defense is back out there.
Yeah.
And so a lot of GJ Kinney's defenses over the past have to play defense a lot more than other schools around the conferences because the offense is so fluid, right? And so you're talking about dudes getting gassed, especially on a team that doesn't have a lot of depth like you see the Power 5 teams do, right? That's the point of I guess I should say that's the difference between a Power 5 school and some other schools that aren't Power 5. And so the depth always plays a factor when you get guys gassed when the fourth quarter comes around because the defense has been out there for 80 snaps or 85 snaps. It takes a toll on a lot of people. And so I think that's another thing to look out for on Thursday is that can the Texas State defense hold up stamina wise and conditioning wise for all these plays that they're going to have to do, because I do think it's going to be a shootout. I mean, I don't think it's going to be a slobber knocker or a slugfest. I think it's going to be an air raid all over the place Thursday night. And so whose defense is going to bend but not break? That's going to be the question.
Yeah, definitely. Last couple questions that will get you out of here, Cory. Obviously, a lot's been made of what Arizona State does on the ground through the first couple weeks of the season. Not a lot of people have seen what Sam Leavitt can do at quarterback for the Sun Devils. Definitely a dual threat guy. And then outside at wide receiver, a lot of guys with a lot of talent. But again, being a run-first team, there haven't been a lot of secondaries thus far that have really seen these guys or been tested by a Jordan Tyson, a Malik McLean, a Jake Smith. Where do you feel like that Texas State secondary is at through 2 weeks?
I think they're pretty solid, right? I think it's something that I mentioned earlier about how Joshua Eaton, now they're taking pride in what they're doing in that secondary, and now they're communicating better. Of course, another year underneath the same defensive scheme, so that also helps out as well when it comes to communication. And so I think they're at a good point, especially coming off a rivalry game where they've proven that, man, we can stop the run and the pass, against a UTSA squad, but that's what they believe right now. And so I think a lot of that is confidence when it comes to the secondary. After Lamar, there wasn't a lot of confidence. It's like, bro, we just got torched by the Cardinals with 27 points. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But after the Roadrunners, they now built that confidence up a little bit. They understand that they can have success in that secondary. And so coming into this game, I think it's on the up and up. But like you mentioned, there's not a lot of tape out there with Leavitt, right? There's not a lot of people that's seen a lot of things that they can do offensively through the air. They know they can run the ball, but what can they do with the wide receivers? Heck, I know what they can do through the air because of NCAA. I've been torched a couple times in Arizona State. And so I know Leavitt's a dog. But like you mentioned, though, it's not shown on tape yet. And so, I think Texas State's secondary is confident, but I'm also intrigued with what I can see with my own eyes in reality and not over a video game with Leavitt.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Look, battle of two undefeated teams heading into week 3, Arizona State, first road game of the season, obviously expecting a big crowd from Texas State. How do you see this one going down on Thursday?
Man, it's going to be interesting, right? Because I think it all goes down and it all depends on third down. I think, let me get the math right. Texas State over the last 2 games, they're 11 for 26, below 50% when it comes to third down conversions. And in a game like this where you need to score a lot of points, that's what I'm assuming, you need to make critical third downs. And so that's the stat. Of course, the run defense, of course, can they hold up against the pass as well? But another stat I'm looking at is that third down efficiency. Which team is going to be able to convert on those third downs? And from right now, what we've seen from Texas State, they're not really good at that part of situational football. And so Arizona State, on the other hand, I know y'all have had some success in that area. And so, I think it's going to be a shootout. I think it's going to take a couple big-time stops in the red zone and on third down. And I'm interested, right? I'm interested to see what's going to happen. I'm not going to give any predictions because I'm not a big prediction guy. But I do think that like the atmosphere at San Marcos is going to be crazy. Just like it was last week against UTSA. And so will that play a factor, right? First road game for Arizona State. It's going to be loud in San Marcos. And so I'm interested to see how that offense is able to handle things as well in a hostile environment.
It should definitely be a good one. The man, the myth, the Mose, KView's own Cory Mose. Give him a follow on social at Cory_Mose. Cory, we appreciate you taking the time today, man.
Man, I appreciate you for asking me to come out anytime, bro. Anytime. I like the vibes out there.
Always, man. Always. Always a great time catching up with Cory. He does some phenomenal work. Again, if you're interested in checking out that full interview, it will be back up on our YouTube channel by the end of the day. Anything just dramatic stick out to you about what Cory has to say about Texas State?
The 30-point favorites over Lamar, you're winning by 7. The fact that like they really have not been tested like this. I know that we can say it, but when somebody who's up close and personal and who has watched it, and even the UTSA part, sure, they're a rival, but he watched that game up close, personal, and UTSA is not good.
Yeah.
You know, that type of stuff does put it in perspective. It makes you think everything is there for the taking for Arizona State.
Absolutely.
They just have to go and take it. That's it. That's all that there is. You're the better team. You're the team that you are expected to win. You have more talent. You have better top-end talent. You have better depth. You're on the road on a short week. Screw it. Go and take a win.
Yeah. You don't go 3-0 on paper. You got to do it in between the lines on the field. Again, Arizona State, Texas State kicking off Thursday. That is going to do it for today's episode of the PHNX Sun Devil Show. If you enjoyed the content, give us a follow at PHNX _Sun Devils. You can follow me at Anthony _Totri. You could follow Longneck Larry here at Erik Ruby. That is Erik with a K. You could follow Captain Redbeard at K Coop Sports. And we will be back on Wednesday for some predictions, some players that need to go out, have some big games for Arizona State to get 3-0 and match their season win total from a year ago. Guys,
fire me up.
As always, go Devils and peace.
We all silly like the mayor.